Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I'm Melanie Brown, and
I'm Orlando.
this is my husband Orlando. If you've been with the channel from way back, when I first right after I first started it, you'll know we were on our anniversary and did several words together at that time. And then another one we've just talked about was like in June or July-ish. It's been a while, and we've been meaning to do words, but it just hasn't been working out very well. For time and just negotiating our time. But we're out here on the patio, and it's a very nice morning, a lovely morning. So, but there's going to be a lot of outdoor noises, so I don't even know how this is going to go, because I can already hear all the chirping and carrying on. It's not super early, so stuff can start. You know, it could be people out here doing work, or I don't know, but we're going to give it a try anyways, and it should be okay. If you hear any bunch of stuff, just ignore it. But it's a really nice morning, and so it was like, you know what? I mean, Sammy's upstairs sick in the area I normally am recording in, and I don't know why I don't come out here anyway. So I was like, why not? Because he's laid up.
We talked about doing it before.
Yeah, so we're on the patio. Okay, pride was the word. Just a recap over it. It was Proverbs 8:13. And that was the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogance and the evil way, and the perverse mouth I hate. That was the original scripture. So that word Zidon took us to a few words, and then I was looking at what those words meant, because sometimes just hearing the word, we have one idea about it, but with all the words that they broke down, we need to dive into what those meant. And that was presumptuously, it was arrogance, insolence. Also, we looked up the perverse mouth. What was insolence? This was quite a bit, but it was bold, arrogant, disrespectful attitude, showing contempt for God and others, and it often stemmed from pride, leading to strife and downfall. It involved refusal to submit to authority, defiant spirit, a sense of self-importance, and then making individuals resistant to correction and wisdom. So it's this arrogance where you can't even hear correction, can't hear what people are trying to say. Whatever wisdom is being offered to you, it's rejected, with the idea that you are more important, your ideas and what you believe, above others. And then it was presumptuous. I didn't really put presumptuous together. That was interesting to me. This was acting overly bold, forward, confident, taking liberties, assuming things. It's like an excessive, unfounded belief in your own importance, your own knowledge, and there's arrogance there to where you make a lot of assumptions about things and become overly confident. They gave an example, which I thought was kind of funny. It says, someone making a bold, unsolicited remark about how they should have won an award. And I was like, oh, I think somebody was put that example on purpose, saying this is a presumptuous person who's very arrogant. Okay, one thing I forgot, I realized that there was a word that I left out, so I wanted to hit this word real quick, and it's ignominy. Ignominy. Have you heard of the word? Yeah, I hadn't either, but this came from the scripture that was saying, when pride comes, this is Proverbs 11:2 we read, when pride comes, then comes shame, but with the humble is wisdom. So that word I missed, but is deep public disgrace. Shame, dishonor. It's often resulting from sin, rebellion, or rejection of God and Christ. But it's also overcome, it says, by Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. So it turns your humiliation into redemption and glory. But it would be about like a loss of a good name or reputation. When pride comes, then comes shame. A lot of times when you're puffed up, I guess, and proud, and you're doing things because you have the sin there with the pride. So this is where the ignominy can occur. And now it's total dishonor, especially with people who are public figures, and And not to get any details, but it's coming to mind thinking about you shouldn't be attending certain things that are contrary to the word, and dealing with certain folks, and fellowshipping. What fellowship does light have with darkness and things? So that's wisdom. If someone comes and says, I don't really know if you really should be there attending this situation and in this situation, but you feel like, well, I can go where I want to go. I'm this person. And then let's say you at the party have a drink and somebody put something in your drink, and now they have videoed you in some compromising position. You have disgraced the pulpit. You have brought shame to whatever position you could be. This could be leadership in a public office. It's a sense of arrogance and pride. I could see where it brings you to this situation, but through Christ, it can be overcome, turned around. He will bring you to redemption and glory. The conversation for what Pride Part 2 is dealing with is we're looking at pride in your marriage and as a couple. Having talked about pride and the definitions and some different aspects of it, is there a thought that you would have to start off in how it can affect relationships in that way?
Being presumptuous, thinking that you know something to be a certain way, and then finding out it was not even close to what you assumed it was going to be. And I think sometimes within the fabric of a relationship, the ability to communicate also is what can help with not being so prideful about situations. I think a lot of times we get caught up in trying to assert like certain things that we may or may not know, and coming off as being dominant or trying to make a point sometimes, and sometimes that point is not even really valid for the situation that's going on. It might just be something else, and sometimes that pride can get you to where you're puffed up, and you don't have the ability to hear, and you can't see what the other person is saying.
So what I hear for direction here, and this is a great direction to go in, is communication. It's always been said in relationships, the most important part can be really your communication. Communication is key. If you don't have good communication in relationships, period, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So when you go there, this is a great starting point for where pride can break things down. So if you're talking about the most important part of how to move, and one of the key components, we're looking at what pride does and what pride brings. When pride enters and you're trying to have communication and you want to communicate whatever your issue is and their issue is and how you feel about it, you can start off with it being, this is great, this is how we should be doing it. But pride can say, I think I already know what your issue is, or what you're trying to say, and I'm assuming you're trying to accuse me. And now you've put an assumption in there because you feel like you know what this person's thinking, what their thoughts are.
Instead of listening.
Yes, okay. And wanting to be, now we move into also when you're communicating, sometimes the disagreement comes in. Disagreements have so much room, it feels like, for pride. Because it's almost like as soon as a person doesn't feel the way you do about something, or they don't have the same thoughts you have, immediately there is this pride that comes in with almost like, how dare you, is what what I feel like I'm hearing. That's what I feel like you were saying. How dare you don't agree with me? It's almost taken personally if they think differently.
Right.
And our pride causes us to then, if it's not checked and we're bringing pride into it, all of a sudden defensiveness. Pride puts you in a defensive posture. Would you say?
I think by nature, I think we're almost groomed by how society is to want to be able to show how smart we are, or stuff that we know and other people may not. I think we're groomed into that situation just by seeing other people, and we watch people on TV, and we don't even realize sometimes that when you get in a position like even pastors, you sit in a church and you sit and listen to one person and they tell you the things that they've learned and stuff like that. It's like somewhere along the line that kind of thing attaches to us when we're outside of it. So then when we're in the midst of communicating something, it's almost like we're in that same position as the pastor would be, speaking to other people and you wanting them to hear and listen to what you're saying. So to me, if you're in church and you stand up in the middle of a pastor preaching, I mean,
well,
what is that?
crazy,
Yeah, what is that going to do?
That's,
not even just for the pastor, but for everybody else around them.
And even if they have a different idea, this is where all these religions, and that's something we're going to talk about, just because of all the different beliefs and religions, is there's something there that is continued to be an issue to me. But
the funny thing is, it's almost like everyone has a thing of pride about what they know about religion, so they break off and create their own.
There's division that comes with pride, and that is partly where everyone can't even come together in God as unified, because pride says, you know, what I believe and what is different than what you believe, and all of that. That is right. So division comes with that. Defensiveness comes from that. When you're put then in a defensive place and you think you have to hunker down on your thoughts and your beliefs in whatever the idea is and hold on to it, it's like pride then comes on in. Once it comes on in, it seems that you have allowed now a door to open up, because you're now coming from a place that is not a righteous place. We're not making decisions out of a place of love anymore. It's like the opposite of that. And so it gives room now for uglier words. Now you got nasty.
Because I feel like within that moment you start to feel like you're losing who you are.
Okay. If you're taking it on like that, like if pride enters you in a place where it's like all about you, because it's all about you.
How
and
dare
pride.
you take this away from me?
Wow, we're trying to change my thoughts.
Yeah.
And we're not really, you know, the thing too there is we don't really need to try to change people's thoughts to get our points across. And that's not even always what each other's trying to do. I think more than anything, sometimes we want to be understood. But then pride, when pride enters in, it ruins just the basic, I just want you to understand who I am. If we fight to just try to understand one another, that's the goal, not to be right. Pride makes the goal to be correct. And then when you were saying that, I thought back to how far back this could really be going, to not even realizing that when you're in elementary school, you raise your hand, whoever's right, everyone raise their hand, who knows the answer. It's right, look, you knew. And everyone, yes, this is correct. And it's validating being correct, everybody agreeing with you. Everything has to be understood the way it's explained. When you're coming through, for a lot of the years that you're learning and you're being educated, it's based on what this person's saying to you. It doesn't even have to be factual, because we know history was missing a lot of things in school for especially different cultures. Even science, depending on whether you're in a Christian school, is missing facts and a lot of things. But you have to be in agreement. You can't even really say something different. I remember being made fun of by this one teacher in 6th grade because I was raised differently than what they were. And it was my parents who were different at that time, but it still was being made to be a focal point because something was said. And for me, I didn't eat those things, or I wasn't allowed, or whatever. And so because it was different based on what they believed to be keeping in the word, it was a joke made. And so already having a differing belief or something separate created shame, or so it almost made you feel like I got to be like everybody else. I don't really want them to know,
or you're going to be belittled.
Yes. And it's because the knowledge they had, the pride within him to say, we are doing this. What's wrong with you? That was really just pride that causes you to make fun also of other people's thoughts and beliefs. We're not realizing what this stems from. And there's other names for it. So you're a bully, or you're this or that. it really boils down to pride, and that's what is so interesting about it. It all is coming in with you being in this arrogant place within yourself that lifts above. I can remember, so now I know we're talking marriage, I'm going to bring it back to family and marriage. I was going to give kind of an example, but I remember us talking, if we're looking at differing things, and really, and my mind's moving fast, forgive me if I'm going to try to edit what I can to make it make sense, but it's moving quickly, so I'm jumping a bit on this one. I hope everyone's following. But it's sometimes just the difference in you can make a person say something. Pride also causes you to sometimes take something in a way that you don't need to. If we work on ourselves, in other words, with how we're dealing with pride, pride also keeps you in offense. So it can also be pride that causes a person to say something to make fun of you or whatever because they feel like you're pointing out the differences in them. But then your pride causes you to be offended by what they said to you that hurt your feelings. Because even getting our feelings hurt a lot of times is just coming from pride. Why would that offend you that they have this opinion? So it's both sides. But anyways, remember when, because I'm a person who likes to get crap, like, and I hold on to things. I like to say if something's on the side of the road looks valuable, I want to grab it and turn it into something, or I see it for something that it's worth, especially wood. I'm one of the people they make jokes about. If wood's there, I don't care if it's in a mattress. I'm like, that's a box spring. We got to stop and get the wood out of the box spring, and he's just like, man, because he did not grow up doing that. I grew up watching my dad turn things into things. So it was a thought that, and he would be like, well, that's good. You can still do this or that with it. This came to my case in point. You remember the old televisions that had the big cabinet and the TV sat inside the cabinet. Do you remember those? It was a piece of furniture, yeah. Wooden furniture with the TV, big or heavy. It just hit me that my father turned this old television, because then when the new ones came, they did, whatever, into a doghouse. Okay? And the thing is, I found these things to be amazing. Okay, as a kid, because you're looking at this and it's just this one thing, and then the next thing you know, it's this other thing, and he was like, this is good wood. and he closed it in, and he, the side was opened up, and he put a door and stuck blankets and pillows and put it in the garage in the corner, and I see her go in there in this cozy warm space. And okay, so my thought process are those, but there was a point where it was like, you're just basically a pack rat. You've got hoarding tendencies, and you think you need to keep all this stuff. And it became, what are you going to do with that? And I remember we got into a whole conversation, but it hurt my feelings because it was belittled in a way, it felt like to me.
The garage cleaning.
Remember that? We were cleaning out the garage. It was kind of like, oh, you're going to keep this and keep this, and you're a pack rat, and it was hurtful. I'm using this example not to talk about that part, but I feel like it's a good example for where pride interferes and where pride can cause it to be different. Yes, it was a problem to see this as a joke because it was a part of who I am, and for reasons that I want to make things, and we did end up using things that we found out there later, that I didn't know at the time what it would be, but just within me knew it could be useful. But pride says, I'm mad now. Look at how you said this to me, and I'm done talking to you, and da-da-da. And it gets in the way and starts to give you a different feeling of being,
I could be little.
Right. It puts you on the defensive. Like we're saying, the pride in the situation could put me in the defensive place to protect who I am and protect what I think, and then get mad. So if you allow pride to cause you to get more defensive, and you sit on it, and then you get angry, and then the next thing you know, you say something about some random, and I'm lashing out in a way that's really not appropriate to that situation. It's kind of like, why are you being so ugly? And really you're offended from way back. So pride can put you in a place of defensiveness, and then you're offended, and then it creates a whole nother mess. We've got to walk in the opposite of pride. So the conversation was, I don't feel like you're understanding this part of me. It feels belittled. It feels hurtful because I'm different than you in this way. And I'm making that statement. What's the difference in pride and how to respond, I guess, to a person's feelings?
I would have to say that as the person on the other end of it, you'd have to see where that person is coming from, see where that person's feelings are, and being able to, just like you said, being able to understand where the other person is coming from, and not look at it like it's a joke. Because I think everybody's feelings sometimes can be taken as a joke and not taken seriously. And there's nothing wrong with having feelings about something, but on the other end, as the other person, you should be able to take that person's feelings into consideration. And I even said to you, you know what, I did not see it that way. Because to me, it wasn't like I was saying anything against you. I was just saying it in a joking manner, not knowing how much it affected you. Then having a conversation about it and realizing, you know, maybe I did say that wrong. I could have came a different way. I should have been a little bit more, you know, I don't want to say sympathetic, but that would be the word, that I would be more sympathetic to
just understanding
how you felt about it. Instead of just, you know, being nonchalant. So I think that's where the pride on the other side of it comes in too. For me, is not taking the time to recognize, hey, you may have offended her by saying that. And it's almost like you're taking on that I don't really care too much about what that feeling is. And that's also the prideful side of it, is that not caring about how the person feels. So you're going to be in yourself thinking like there's nothing wrong with what I said.
Right. Okay.
There's
and
nothing
yes,
wrong
that
with what
could
I
be
did.
defending yourself.
Yes.
Now, I go to a place, you go to a place of I'm offended, but then you want to talk about what you're offended about, but then it's like they're just defending. Yeah, that can turn it into something it doesn't need to be. And
so I think
goes on
it's the same. It's like any pride is going to be some sort of defensiveness on both sides. Even if you're the one saying something to the person to offend them, then your pride steps in and says you did nothing wrong.
Right.
What you said was perfectly fine. They just took it wrong. And you shouldn't.
Yes.
You shouldn't.
And then you dig in.
Yes, and you shouldn't
know?
be sitting here thinking to yourself, well, I'm not going to say anything because I wasn't wrong about what I said.
Yeah.
Instead of taking on the other side of it, saying, I apologize. I didn't look at it like that, and this is not how it was supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. And that way, everything can be smooth. And I don't think we realize how bumpy things can be just because of that little simple thing. That one little simple thing. Not taking the time to understand what the other person is feeling. And then you can move on. But then I think pride makes things linger.
Yes.
I think it's like a cesspool.
Yeah, it can. Yes, and it sits and
and it
builds.
gets to be even worse than before, and then that makes everything else.
And by the time
worse.
people can, so if you go through this too many times, and it's building, like you're saying, and festering, and it gets more and more things, more and more things, and then people get to the point where they don't want to even go through it.
To shut down.
That's where the enemy's got he's got a whole plan going, and it's kind of like a strategy in the game. And you're like, now we've got him. You know how people have the boxing matches going,
It's a game plan.
and they keep him in the ropes,
It's a game plan.
over and over in the corner. And you know, if you do enough body shots, the whole long game
Everything is gonna fall
you're
out.
going to get, it's coming down at some point, and it feels like these body shots all the time, and this getting you on the ropes, digging in to where by the time you get into that you know the rounds. I've got a plan. I'm gonna take you down in this many rounds. If you got 7, it's gonna go this many. And the reason they know that is because it's like we know
It's a
how
game
long
plan.
it takes before you're gonna be broken down enough. And I feel like this is the enemy's game on marriages and on things. It's a certain amount of rounds. He knows you. He's been watching you forever. He knows how long it's gonna take before you're going down. And how long it's going to be that you can do something, who's endurance, and how long they've got it. And so it gets to the point where you're at this place where you're saying, okay, I'm not talking about this. Because you know how the people start laying on you in the boxing ring? That's the first indicator longer because they're leaning.
Tired.
Yeah, and it's like,
They're
okay,
tired.
they laying on me, and they keep having to push them off and push them off. I remember this was, we watch boxing all the time. Once again, when I was younger, and this was a point. And looking back on it now, you realize it's working. They're wearing them down.
Yeah.
I think this is where it gets to when you stop talking and you're tired. Now I'm not even going to say nothing. Because if I say something, it's going to be this. Then they're going to get defensive. It's going to be this. And so you just you're just leaning at that point. And then a lot of times that one last thing, whatever it is, knockout.
TKO.
It's isn't that a technical?
Yeah, that's a TKO.
That's a
Yeah,
technical.
knockout, yeah.
But then, no, I'm saying, and then they may run on off and leave, and that's a knockout.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's a knockout. So it's like you really have to watch it. I hate to look at it as a boxing match but at the same time, it's like it's a fight in this life. Wow, it's a fight in this life. And so I know this sounds crazy to say, and maybe this is bold of statement, but there really isn't any reason to be fighting. I know this is so strange because they are going to tell you that it's normal.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about things that are normal, and we take it in because it looks like it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily how it really should be.
It's not supposed to be that.
There are conversations and disagreements. You don't always agree about it. Like, you're not going to see it in the same way. But it's not to be a fight until you dig in pridefully and don't decide how to work something through. It's only when you're in your feelings and emotions, which come through pride, that take over to the point where you're now sitting in defensiveness and you're offended by what's being said, and then the person does the same, and then it's a fight. Fighting is not, to me, the same as disagreeing.
No.
And without pride, disagreements look completely different. It
looks like a conversation.
Right. I see where this is an intentional thing. It's like you have to be super careful. As soon as you feel certain things that trigger you, that's the way to know pride has entered and pride needs to leave. Because if I say to you, I disagree with that. I don't believe that that's how I see that. Like, what that can immediately be.
Oh, it's going to conjure up.
Yes, if you're not careful and you don't automatically, it's almost like you want to declare it up front. Not to fight, but declare it up front so that postures can flip. Like, immediately make sure your posture becomes, I want to understand you. I want to know where you're coming from. And the other person has to then say, and I want to understand you. Where are we differing and why? And to know that it's really okay that you don't have to agree about it. It's pride that makes you think that people have to agree with every single thing you think and feel. Would you say? I mean, now if your whole life is like, we're not talking about principled things. Like, you know what I'm saying? If your whole life is a lie, I believe we should be in the club on the weekend. I don't. I believe we can fall down drunk and have people, and be out, and I don't. I believe that we can look at anything and have the children look at it. Principles and stuff like that.
That's something totally
That is not what we're talking about here.
totally different.
Not at all. But this can boil down to how you drive, how you park, which direction you choose to go. It can boil down to whether you have a credit card or they don't. Let's get somebody to cut the grass. No, that's waste of money. I want to cut the grass. Stuff that we've talked about where we may not fully agree. You got to be able to see it a different way. Come out of just feeling, that your way is the only way. Pride says that too. And this is moving to the last point, unless you have another thought that you're thinking of pertaining to pride that you just want to share that you can think of in another area.
No, I think because communication is the center.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the point you were making about saying that you disagree, or you would say, well, I think I disagree with that. And for you to say that, but then begin to explain why you disagree. Because it's like, I think everybody has a point in which they're saying what they're saying. There's a reason why they're saying it. So I think, making a point and being able to share and explain what that point is, and not taking offense to whatever that point is. So
Because if you're offended before they can get to a lot of times you can't even get to why you're different.
You can't even hear anything.
And this is why it could be good to just say, I believe I disagree in this area. And the decision is already made that if we disagree in this area, now we stop. How do we see eye to eye, and what is the differing opinion? But you gotta be careful at that moment that is disagreed upon, or that you detect that this person doesn't feel the way that you do at that moment in the communication regarding whatever. There are levels to this that make it complex. It's not because, let's say this is a conversation in an area that you are broken in, or that you need assistance in, or therapy in, or problems in.
Yeah.
So for case in point, let's say you're scared to stay home alone. You're full of fear.
Yeah.
Fear of all kind. Let's say something has occurred and somebody doesn't trust another person well, because you're walking through something difficult where trust is an issue.
Yeah.
And now you want to give them all these crazy ideas of reasons, and they say, we can't get a delivery every time. I need to run to the store for this one thing, and I'll be right back. But I'm afraid. And okay, there's a point kind of where if this is literally just a crippling fear that you're sitting in all the time, and you want that person to join you, or now they can't go with their friends after work or enjoy something, or be at a work party or something going on because you don't trust them at all now due to whatever the situation. Now that you're living in fear and lack of trust, that doesn't mean that you then get to cause them to live in the same fear, and that your rules are the rules that should be lived by. There are times when, okay, we disagree, but we're disagreeing on a principle. That's where the word comes in. If you're operating out of fear and distrust, you're keeping records of the wrongs that have gone on. You feel that you have a right to not trust on all of this. You can't really, there's other parts. That's what I mean with there's other levels where you simply are saying, we have to come to some agreement, and this person isn't coming to agreement because they've decided to sit in this particular situation. We're not able to, that's not what we're really able to address at this point. That's not the stuff we're talking about, because that's a whole nother level. But I would say when you're operating out of fear.
You know, the funny thing, just by listening and you say all these things, it's very scary how fear and pride are so tied together.
Okay.
They're very...
Fear and pride.
Very similar.
Wow.
Very similar. Because in pride, you're afraid that your point is not going to be heard.
Okay.
It's going to be missed.
Okay.
Or overlooked.
Okay.
And in fear, you're worried about what people think, or how people view you. Or what they're going to say.
You're afraid of things.
You're afraid of things
that affect you.
Yes.
It's still your fears, and it's prideful.
Yes.
And which even lines up a bit with Jessica and I, and what we're talking about with embarrassment, because that's still fear and it's still pride. So it's definitely all intertwined. That's a very, very important and very good point to make. That all of that's got to be checked, and you're going through the checklist in that sense. Okay, the scriptures I have, because I'm like, don't forget all my scriptures. Proverbs 13:10, by pride comes nothing but strife, but with the well-advised is wisdom. And in the conversation there, if we're talking about communication, everything else, strife is coming. It's going to be issues and problems and all of this, because the pride stemming and then creating fear and defensiveness and all of that. There's strife.
That's where the fighting comes in.
And well advised, there's wisdom. So you're going to be taking in that word, and then wisdom is going to come. The last scripture is Proverbs 16:18. It's pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And haughty spirit, that's puffed up, prideful. Pride is before destruction. So, and even if we're looking at it in the fight with the knockout, what are the terms that he used? He destroyed him. He destroyed him. It's you're done. You're down.
You're beat down.
And in all these ways, that even the person who is high up, like we're saying spiritually, never mind not to have any dealings with the unfruitful works of darkness and other things that are in the scriptures to help you. You're disregarding all of that and feeling like because of who you are, you can be on the line, you can do this, do that, and then down. Your whole, the reputation, the testimony of the things that are going on and all of it can be literally destroyed in one, as Cat Williams said, 2 weekends.
2 weekends.
You can be taken down.
And also the idea that people tell you how great you are. Tell you how great you are.
Yes.
And even with my job, and I have people tell me, other people, oh, he's good at this or he's good at that. I don't like to hear it.
Okay.
And I don't like for people to say that because it sets you up for failure.
Interesting. Because then you start getting full of yourself.
Yes, and not only that, but it's like you get these people with this idea that you are this and everything about you is this, and then you're not able to come through the way they see you. And then it's like, well, you was nothing to begin with. And then you think to yourself, well, first of all, I never told you I was. So we also have to be careful that people don't sit here and puff you up.
Because they can.
Because they will.
And in then you'll sit up here. Too,
it's the same thing. Oh, you're the greatest.
You're this perfect.
And then as soon as you trip and bust your face wide open, then it's like, oh, you're regular. You know? Yeah.
This is a thing too, because that's the whole my man.
Yeah.
And people a lot of times, and all that comes before they find out they ain't doing right. Because you're prideful about the situation, you're puffed up about what you've got going on,
or wives, when you're out with your husband and you feel so protected, you feel like you can say anything.
Hey,
no, but I'm just saying, it's like you can make that person feel like, I can do it.
Yeah, I can fight.
And then, and next thing you know, you find yourself on the ground. So it's like, you have to be careful about people puffing you up.
Yes, and in
you're
a lot of
getting
marriages,
prideful. Yes,
yeah, they
getting prideful.
Started off, and you cannot make a person your God.
No.
They can, and then it fills them with pride that anything you say, anything you do goes. Anything you want to feel, you're their God in their life, and they can replace God. And if you're putting them in an idolatrous position, that person then is filled with pride, and then when, like you said,
thing happens,
they fall, and now this person, everybody's destroyed. They're but it's really just understanding our humanity, understanding our need for the Lord and for a Savior, understanding who we really are as human beings. Being godly proud is very different, because you're godly proud in that, look at what God has done. He's getting the glory. Godly proud says, we're glorifying you for the blessings. My godly man, because then it's like he's going to be reminded through Christ, I am this or that, or through what God has done and has enabled me to be this person. And then dying to self, so we know that in conversations, in communication, and whatever's going on, we're not fighting out of pride to be the correct one. We're not fighting out of pride to be the right one all the time, or to see it as only our way. We are fighting to love properly. The fight that we're in the marriage is to walk every day in the best possible way and remove ourselves. You can have a discussion, you can have a conversation, it can even be a little bit spicy, but it's not coming from digging into, with pride, into only being right and correct and putting down. Because now when you get to the point where you are belittling and putting down the other person for their thoughts and feelings, because even if there is an issue with the fear, even if you have things that are going on and you're coming at this person and wanting them to come down to the place that you're in fear and do what you're asking in that regard, that's a matter with each other in love of prayer. That's a matter of saying, we need to pray about what the source is here for why you're requesting this, or why you think this needs to be different. It's fear. Let's pray about that. Let's get rid of that and make our decisions from love, not from fear. And that's an agreement you have to be in and under. Any last words before we close?
I think for me, with this conversation really just kind of highlights the adage of being of service.
Okay.
And to serve, and to have the idea that your life is to be given of service. And I think that's on every aspect of life. All of it entails service. With service, there is no pride.
Being able to love one another and embrace one another in those differences, and even when it ends with just a difference.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Still
just
being
different.
able to embrace our differences.
We're not going to be the same here,
Yeah.
and we don't need to be. We are focused on where we are like-minded, not the points that we put to the side in order to dig in with pride and coming only from where we're right and you're wrong, and operating out of how to make you believe what I believe, like you're saying, but come from just a place of love and understanding and service to one another.
Yes.
And then from there, pride has no place.
place.
And no ability to come in and take over. You can flourish and have a relationship where fighting is just not the part of the way it functions, but in unity. Let's get rid of pride in our lives. Look for it. Ask the Spirit to show you where it is. And a lot of times it's very obvious, because wherever your hurt feelings are, wherever your anger is, and disagreements, you're going to find pride sitting somewhere very close by. Don't forget to find the word, and we'll see you next time.